Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Next Door NetAdmin. It's the end of the month, which means it's time for a freeform. But on this freeform, there's something specific that I would like to take the opportunity to talk about. Now, last week, when I showed you a little bit around my office at my workplace, I pointed out the System Administrator's Code of Ethics that I have posted on the wall there. I want to take a little bit of time to walk through what this Code of Ethics actually says, why I think it's important, and why I would encourage other system administrators and other network administrators to remind themselves of this on a regular basis. So first of all, why do I think that this is necessary? A system administrator, and by extension a network administrator as well, has a great deal of access within a network. We're the ones who can access any file pretty much anywhere. We have the ability to set permissions on files. We can lock people out of directories if we choose to. We can grant access to other people, whether they have a business reason to access it or not. We have the ability to monitor systems. We can search through mailboxes. We can do an awful lot. We don't, typically speaking, we stick to the boundaries of the job at hand. But we have that power. It's trite to say it, the whole with great power. We all know that phrase. I don't have to say it here, but it is true. There is a great amount of responsibility placed or entrusted to us as system administrators and as network administrators. So it's a good idea to hold ourselves professionally to a code of ethics, a standard of behavior, and to remind ourselves of it on a periodic basis, because we're all human and we forget things. It's just a thing that happens. But also to make a more public statement of that, in essence, to tell our customers, our colleagues, these are the standards that I want to follow. This is how you can expect me to behave. It's not going to be about, I need to take all the credit and I'm going to do whatever I feel like and I'm going to snoop around wherever I feel. That's not the idea. So that's why I think a code of ethics is a good thing to have and why I choose to follow this one. This particular code of ethics I came across via LOPSA. LOPSA, that is the League of Professional System Administrators. But this particular code of ethics is one that LOPSA promulgates. It is also available through the Usenix. I don't remember what Usenix is right off the top of my head. How embarrassing. But it's handily at the bottom of the Code of Ethics, the Advanced Computing Systems Association. There we go. So this is the System Administrator's Code of Ethics. This is the, portrait form of it. The one on my wall was a landscape version of the same, but it's the same thing. So here's some of the things on the Code of Ethics. Professionalism. I will maintain professional conduct in the workplace and will not allow personal feelings or beliefs to cause me to treat people unfairly or unprofessionally. Whether I like somebody or not, whether they rub me the wrong way or not, whether I agree with what they're doing or not, as a business or even personally, I still need to be a professional. That's part of what we do. We are professionals. We treat our customers and our colleagues with professionalism. regardless of what personal feelings on a particular matter or towards a particular person may be. Personal integrity. I will be honest in my professional dealings and forthcoming about my competence and the impact of my mistakes. I will seek assistance from others when required. We all know the person who goes and assures customers, oh, yeah, we can totally do that. Absolutely, won't be a problem. And then they turn around and come and talk to us and go, can we actually do this? Because I already kind of promised it to the customer, so we need to find a way to follow through on that now. Bad. Bad. Part of personal integrity on this is admitting when you don't have the answer. And also owning up to your mistakes. It's not nice. It's not fun to have to sit there and go, yeah, I made a mistake that just erased all user accounts in the company. Sorry about that. We're going to work on getting those back for you. This is something that I have done. I got a command wrong, and instead of doing what I was trying to do, it managed to delete every user account, almost every user account in the domain. That was not fun. I make mistakes very rarely, but unfortunately, the price of being good means that when you make a mistake, you make a mistake in an epic fashion. And it's not nice having to own up to it, but you need to own up to it and be honest so that your customers know if it was our fault, we will own up to it. And if we tell you it's not our fault, then you can believe in that because we have a track record of owning up to it when it is our own issue that caused whatever's happening. It's not about pointing fingers at other people. We'll own up to it. It's important, but it's not fun. I will avoid conflicts of interest and biases wherever possible. When my advice is sought, if I have a conflict of interest or bias, I will declare it if appropriate and recuse myself if necessary. Also important. All of this stuff is important, really. So also important is kind of a pointless thing to say, but I have to declare when I'm biased. I have to say, I am more familiar with this system, I am more comfortable with this system, so I am leaning more towards this. But objectively, I can lay out pros and cons, but where I have a bias, I have to say so. And, just declare it so that people can know that when I have an objective opinion, it is an objective opinion. If I have a personal leaning one way or another, I'm going to say so. Again, this is all about being able to trust your administrator when they're telling you something and you don't have to second guess them. Second guessing is a terrible thing because when you have people who are working with a company's confidential information on a regular basis, you really need to be able to trust them because otherwise things don't work out very well. Speaking of confidential information, privacy. I will access private information on computer systems only when it is necessary in the course of my technical duties. I will maintain and protect the confidentiality of any information to which I may have access, regardless of the method by which I came into knowledge of it. You're working with people's personal files. You're working with people's personal email boxes. You're working with company data. You may be working with payroll information. You may be working with HR information. You may be dealing with allegations of workplace misconduct. You may be dealing with legal requests. You may be dealing with all sorts of shenanigans. And as professionals, it is essentially our duty to, I would say, wear blinders. You kind of go into networks like this and go, I'm only going to look at what I need to look at for each individual issue. If I need to fix one person's profile, I'm only working in their profile. I'm not going into anybody else's. If I need to resync a profile, and what I need to do is copy the contents of their desktop to another desktop folder, cool, I can do that. Doing that generally doesn't require me to go digging through each individual folder to see what's there. Conversely, if I'm trying to figure out a disk space issue, and I notice that there is random number 35 gigs of information in a desktop folder, I may need to investigate that to find out what is taking up so much disk space. But I don't do that proactively. I only do that where I have to. It's a very important principle that system administrators do not go digging unless we are actively troubleshooting a situation that requires us to go digging in that area. To do otherwise is a breach of trust. And again, if you can't trust your system administrators, that's not a good position to be in. And they'll generally lead to the removal of the administrators in question. Laws and policies. I will educate myself and others on relevant laws, regulations, and policies regarding the performance of my duties. Not just the performance of my duties, but the requirements placed upon me. For example, if there is privacy law, it's important to know what that law is. It's important so that you can advise others on, here's a solution, here's another solution, but this one is the only one that is actually legal, in legal compliance. Yes, we could do this thing over here, except it's against the law. And if, for whatever reason, something goes wrong, this is going to lead to a lot more problems than if we had followed the laws in the first place. Knowing what the rules are is an important thing. Like I said, these are all important things, but that's an important one too. I will communicate with management, users, and colleagues about computer matters of mutual interest. I will strive to listen to and understand the needs of all parties. We don't have the luxury as system administrators, or we should not have the luxury of saying, I'm just going to, dump this on somebody else. I have decided that this particular issue is not important enough for me to deal with. Somebody else can do that. Do they have the bandwidth to do that? Do they actually have the ability to take that on? If not, you're essentially dropping the ball. That's not good. Communicating with management is also important. Hey, I'm overloaded. I've got too much stuff. I am at risk of dropping the ball on these things. I need help. There's no shame in saying that you need help when you need help. Communicate. It's important. I will strive to ensure the necessary integrity, reliability, and availability of the systems for which I am responsible. That's a given. I will design and maintain each system in a manner to support the purpose of the system to the organization. I have mentioned this many times before, but you need to have an understanding of what each individual organization needs, what is required of their systems. And we have the responsibility to design it in such a way that it will actually be able to fulfill the purpose for which it is being acquired, for which it is being put to work. administer the system in the way that is appropriate for each system, for each customer. I will continue to update and enhance my technical knowledge and other work-related skills. I will share my knowledge and experience with others. What you know cannot just stay in your own head. It is your responsibility to continue to contribute to the well-being and the skill set of others by sharing what you have learned and by allowing yourself to learn from others in turn. That's how this works. I will cooperate with the larger computing community to maintain the integrity of network and computing resources. Here's an interesting point. How many of us think about the impact we have on the larger global community of system administrators? If you are a network administrator, that is something that you have to take into account more often than I think probably happens. If you are participating in a BGP peering relationship and you decide that you're not going to implement security on the routes you accept, and you decide to accept and then rebroadcast a route announcement that is incorrect, and I don't know, all of Facebook goes away off the internet for 4 hours until you figure out that, oh, hey, this is my problem. I'm the one causing this issue. That's not good. And that has a major, major impact on everybody else. All the system administrators out there are pulling their hair trying to figure out what's going on. Why has such a large portion of the internet suddenly disappeared? If you didn't put in the work and take the responsibility to make sure that you were accepting this information in a secure fashion, and as a result, you're the one who breaks it, you're not holding up your responsibility to the rest of the community of system administrators out there, or indeed all the people who are relying on that website or those services in the first place. It's dereliction of duty, I would say. As an informed professional, I will encourage the writing and adoption of relevant policies and laws consistent with these ethical principles. Self-explanatory. I will strive to build and maintain a safe, healthy, and productive workplace. I will do my best to make decisions consistent with the safety, privacy, and well-being of my community and the public, and to disclose promptly factors that might pose unexamined risks or dangers. Yes. If you find a bug in a system, it's important to communicate that. If you find a flaw, you can't just sweep it under the rug. If it poses a danger, you have to speak up about it. If you go and you're like, oh, hey, this entire payroll database, it's not encrypted or anything. Is this a concern? Immediately, the answer should be yes, it is a concern, in which case the question should become, what's the fuller picture here? Are there other mitigations in place that I'm not understanding? Is there more information that will change the nature of how this looks? Because if you have an entire system like that with confidential data that's not encrypted, it really should be. I've actually heard stories from friends, other colleagues of mine, about systems that should have been encrypted and were not. They had confidential data on them. They had a lot of confidential data on them. But the people making the decisions for those systems refused to implement any form of protection because doing so would constitute an admission that it hadn't been done before. Yes, it might constitute an admission that it hadn't been done before, But, consistent with the whole personal integrity, if we've made a mistake, we need to own up to it and say, this wasn't done before, we're doing it now. The phrase, better late than never, comes to mind. If you know that there's a flaw, if you know there's a security vulnerability, it is your responsibility to communicate that and address it. That's what we're here for. I will accept and offer honest criticism of technical work as appropriate, and will credit properly the contributions of others. Again, we're not in this for our own self-glorification. Not cool. Don't take code from other people without crediting it. Don't erase copyright notices. Don't, say, oh yeah, I did this all on my own. You didn't. I mean, if you did do it all on your own, more power to you, my friend. But if you didn't, say so. And accept valid criticism of your work. Constructive criticism. We don't mean things like, I think that your work sucks. Okay, why? Well, just because I don't like it. That's not a valid criticism. Give me a reason. Do you not like the language that this is written in? If not, why not? Give me reasons. Back it up. If you want to say, hey, I noticed that your code does this, or your network design looks like this, but have you considered these particular failure conditions that might cause it to misbehave or work in a way that was not intended? That is honest, helpful, constructive criticism on a technical level. As much as we don't necessarily like having shortcomings in our designs identified by other people, I certainly don't. I don't like it at all. But it's important to accept that anyway. If you willfully blind yourself to the flaws in your own work, you're never going to improve. And you're not going to have a chance to fix any of those flaws until it's too late, until they've already been exploited, or until the system has already come to a crashing halt, which is not great. Finally, I will lead by example, maintaining a high ethical standard and degree of professionalism in the performance of all my duties. I will support colleagues and coworkers in following this code of ethics. That's pretty much it. People will respect it and think more highly of it if you lead by example. Nobody respects somebody who just tells you, do as I say, don't do as I do. That doesn't hold any water. That don't cut the mustard. So you have to lead by example. And in the spirit of accepting valid, constructive criticism, it's important when people go, did you acknowledge a bias in this area? Did you, fully look at this design to see if it met the reliability? Was this decision just a standardized decision, or was it specifically made for this organization's best interest? All of these things are, I consider all of these things valid for people to ask questions on. Because when you have people asking those questions, best case scenario, you can tell them, yes, I did consider that. Yes, I did acknowledge a bias. Here it is. And, cool. Then they know that you did your job. You followed your own code of ethics. And there's reassurance in that. If not, then it offers you the chance to make a correction and say, You're right. I do have a bias here, and I don't know if I said so explicitly. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to say, yes, I have a personal leaning here. Here's what it is and why. Or, you're right. This design does not work as intended under these circumstances. Either we think the chance of these circumstances arising is really remote, or we'll go back to the drawing board a little bit and work up a revision. Again, reassurance. And it's important, especially to your junior system administrators, that they feel like they can actually bring feedback forward without getting their heads lopped off or, getting chewed out because how dare they question the senior system administrator. If people don't feel free and comfortable to bring you feedback, you're not going to get the feedback, and you're not going to have advance warning of issues that you should be aware of. So, leading by example, committing to a high ethical standard, this is all really important. I'm sure, by the way, that there are other code of ethics out there. Codes of ethics? I don't know. But like I said, this is one that I've printed out. I follow it. I think it's a good example of a code of ethics that professional system administrators or network administrators can aspire to follow and aspire to uphold. I will link it down in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much all I was going to talk about for today. So happy August. Happy conclusion of August, and let's roll on forward to September, I suppose. Hopefully this video has been useful and interesting to you. I am your next door NetAdmin, and we will see you next time.